ॐ सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलं करं किं परं करं तज्जहम् कृतिमहो दधौ पतनकारणं फलमाशाश्वतं गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितं नेच्छया कृतं चित्तशोधकं मुक्तिसाधकम्।
Very good.
कायवान् मनः कार्यमुत्तमम् पूजनं जपश्चिन्तनं क्रमात् जगत् ईशधियुक्तसेवनम् अष्टमूर्तिभृद्देव पूजनम् उत्तमस्तवादुच्च मन्दतः चित्तजं जप ध्यानमुत्तमम्।
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. So we are seeing how karma is to be converted to help us internally, mentally free ourselves from shackles of limitations that we impose on ourselves. And the way to do it, Shastra says that mind being only thoughts, and thoughts are all related to objects. You cannot have a thought which doesn't have an object. So if one wants to find inner peace, leisure, which otherwise is supposed to be one's nature, but not knowing that one is looking out in the realm of objects and depending on them, hoping that this will give us peace and happiness. This idea, because thoughts relate only to objects, so Shastra says we will have to have a set of object, quote unquote, to which the thoughts can be directed. But the nature of that object should be that it doesn't have any parallel sensory experience. All objects of the world are objects of senses. Object मतलब ही ये है कि it is perceived by the senses. तो वो sense का experience है. It's an experience of the senses. So thought is mind subjective, but the object, what the thought thinks about, belongs to a sensory realm. And so a subject-object relation gets formed. And in this subject-object relation, a human being is trying to discover peace, happiness. Shastra's vision is, education to human being is, peace is your nature. आप ही का स्वभाव है. आप ही peace युक्त हो. आप peace ही हो. You are peace. There is no difference between you and peace. It's not a vishay to be discovered, to be created. It is your nature which you have to discover. That peace being your स्वभाव. मगर आज क्योंकि मन हमारा विषयों में जकड़ा है, पकड़ा है, विषयों के साथ रहता है, and that is by default orientation of the instrument, senses and mind. It's by default उसका nature है. ऐसे ही काम करता है ये. Then we bring about an object in the mind to which the subject individual is connected, and the nature of that object is कि it is not a sensory विषय, and yet it can relate to you as an individual and help you to discover your peace. तो वो विषय कैसा होना चाहिए? उस विषय की एक खासियत होनी चाहिए. It should be a specific विषय. Not every विषय can be possible. Not every object is possible to take you towards your peaceful discovery of your peaceful nature. हर चीज के बारे में सोच के आप अपने आप को आप क्या हो ये नहीं figure out कर सकते. Like we did the example yesterday, if I keep thinking about anything in the world, the thoughts will run only to that particular object. So वो ऐसा क्या विचार होना चाहिए कि उस विचार का संबंध विचार करने वाले के साथ ऐसा हो कि वो जो एक संबंध बनता है विषय का और विचार करने वाले का, उस संबंध का फल ये हो कि आत्मा विषय बन जाए. वो जो पीस हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, शांति हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, वो शांति डिस्कवर हो जाए. एंड सो शास्त्र गिव्स अस दिस. इट्स अ ब्यूटिफुल टेक्निक इन इटसेल्फ. वो ऐसा विषय है जो दुनिया में वन ऑफ द लिमिटेड विषय नहीं होगा, मगर उसका स्वभाव ऐसा होगा कि इट विल पॉइंट टू योर ओन इनर नेचर. और वो क्या है? The whole idea of Ishvara, whole idea of Bhagavan, this whole concept with which a thought can relate. Uncle के I don't know what to. अरोड़ा जी के पीछे कृष्ण की मूर्ति दिखती है. अब आप अगर मूर्ति को देखते हैं, कृष्ण की, my focus, I'm not able to keep on his face, it goes to the मूर्ति. Because अब दो चीजें इकट्ठी दिख रही हैं आपको. I don't know if Facebook people can't say anything. आप कुछ कहिए तो the camera will shift to you so that those people can also see what I'm saying. कुछ भी कहिए आप. हरि ओम कहिए, नमस्ते कीजिए, कुछ भी कहिए.
हरि ओम, हरि ओम.
Ditiji, I pinned him.
That's why I'm wondering what happened. Okay. Now, okay, they can see something. Right, it has come. All right. So now they have. So now you see, now there are two things are coming together. On the screen, you're able to see the form, and you're able to also see another form. If you can pin it again, if you want. The minute you see another form, वहां पे आपको एक जगह राजेंद्र जी दिख रहे हैं, दूसरी जगह आपको कृष्ण जी दिख रहे हैं. दोनों थॉट्स के विषय हैं. Your thought is perceiving two things. In that frame, you are perceiving Rajinder ji and you are perceiving Krishna ji. अब अगर किसी को नाम नहीं पता, कोई देख नहीं पा रहा, तो वो कहेगा कृष्ण किसी का नाम भी तो हो सकता है. जैसे राजेंद्र जी नाम है, कृष्ण जी भी किसी का नाम है. These are two names. But the minute you see Krishna ji there, the minute you saw the form of Krishna there, automatically object is Krishna. Here the object is Rajinder ji. संबंध राजेंद्र जी से बनेगा तो वो नाम रूप में संबंध बनेगा, और वो संबंध के नाम है ना, माता के साथ पुत्र का, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. देयर आर नेम्स टू दी संबंधास. मगर कृष्ण जी को जब देख के संबंध बन रहा है, मैं ही तो देख रही हूं ना दोनों को. द मिनट आई एम सीइंग कृष्ण जी ओवर देयर, अब संबंध क्या है? इस विषय का इस जीव के साथ संबंध क्या है? So this becomes a very important introduction to a human chitta, to human mind. In any form it can be, but the nature of that form should be such that it is not going to be a sensory experience. Rajinder ji ke saath, I can talk to him, he will answer back. I can see him, he can see me. हमारी वार्तालाप हो सकती है, हम मिल सकते हैं. There are all kinds of sensory interactions possible. कृष्ण जी के साथ क्या करोगे? ढूंढ रहे हैं अपने संबंधों में, अपने कर्मों के थ्रू, अपने विचार से, अपनी पूरी शरीर यात्रा में. Since we are born till we will die in this lifetime, there is one steady thing, and that is looking for our shanti or peace. Our Shastra gives us model. To discover it, here, karma, if you depend to give you that permanent happiness, nahi hoga. Karam, sirf karam agar pit, that means I can only do work in the world. But if I do work in the world, in the name of Ishvara, the nature of karma will change. And that is what he said here. If I work in the world just for its own sake, when I work in the world because I'm looking for my happiness, वो एक कर्म का संबंध है. It's different. But same work in the world when I do, thinking of Ishvara here, automatically my thought association with that work has changed. That change, he says, is the highest form of worship. Bringing Ishvara through your organs of action. Ashtamurti Brit is the Ishta Devata Puja. That's the beginning stage. As one keeps imposing, growing higher in perception, the same Ishta Devata, Jagata Ishadhi, with that understanding that this Jagat is Isha, now it's become Vishwarupa. This Vishwarupa darshan and this Vishwarupa, with this idea when I serve in the world, with the same idea of supposing I look at Rajinder ji as my Pita today, but I see him as an expression of Ishvara. As a Pita, I will have certain duty, I will have certain fondness, I will have certain respect, I will have certain adoration, I will have certain seva bhav. It will be there naturally, averagely speaking, if we are already thoda sa chitta shuddha. It's not taken for granted, but averagely, let's take it like that. Now what happens if I see Rajinder ji as my Pita, but also the expression here is Ishvara. वो जो कृष्ण की मूर्ति यहाँ है, वो सिर्फ मूर्ति नहीं है. तो कृष्ण सिर्फ इस मूर्ति में नहीं है, व्यापक है. वो इधर ये राजिंदर जी में भी है. The minute this perception has overflowed into the person, now the way I look at it is going to happen what? Will I have the same kind of a emotion and feeling? I'm not going to give names to the, yeah, exactly. The very idea, maybe you can see there is a difference. Though I revere my parent as a parent, there's no doubt about that. But the minute I have brought an Ishvara here into this, now my parent has even surpassed, my emotion has surpassed my best emotion before. It's something grown far more. And now it is not restricted only to one or two. So with this idea that the mind starts to live with, ये जीने का एक तरीका हो जाता है. That is why we say it is embedded in the very knowledge of Vedas. And those method with which we started living our life was called Sanatana Dharma, in the sense that it is this understanding with which we live life. It is not something you follow. It is something that you imbibe and live. क्योंकि अब आपकी मन बदल गई, आपकी बुद्धि बदल गई, आपका विचार बदल गया, आपकी सोच बदल गई. इस सोच से अब आप जी रहे हो. So, physical action, कायिक karma, he said, to bring easy way to bring Ishvara is starting first from only your puja, means in some form you will bring Ishvara in that limited entity. But जैसे जैसे बुद्धि का विकास होगा, जैसे जैसे भाव में विकास होगा, your bhav will start to expand. As that bhav expands, I find a limitation of having an English translation of the word bhav. Ishvara bhav, you may call it devotion, but call it bhakti, but bhakti is of course it doesn't have that parallel. As the bhav starts to percolate in the mind, expands into other things, now your contact with the world gets purified. It's no longer from the individual me, my vision. मुझे कुछ चाहिए, मुझे खुशी चाहिए, मुझे आनंद चाहिए, I need to do something. Now it's got expansive, and as it expands, it comes closer to its nature, and as it comes closer to its nature, you realize that the dependency of discovering happiness from the world reduces because your nature is expression of independent happiness. And then he said, for your oral karma, you have japa, and which we saw in details yesterday. Now, third thing he says in verse 4 is Chintanam. So, pujanam, japa. Japa is a way to bring ekagrata in your mind. So, the more you are able to keep your mind on a particular focused thought, higher the ekagrata comes, means greater the chit is ekagra, and shuddha and ekagra chit becomes ज्ञान योग्यता का माध्यम. ज्ञान का माध्यम अब बन सकता है ये मन. अंतकरण में अब विकार हो गया है. It has now got the qualification to know your nature is peace. You don't have to look for it outside. Even listening to this much, ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ वेदा में ये लिखा है. हर रिलीजन यही कहता है शायद. You are an embodiment of peace. Having known it, am I able to settle with this thought? Who doesn't know that happiness is within? It's very popular now. The saying is very popular. It's become known to everybody. Happiness is within. But why is it that I'm not settling with the thought? Why am I still looking for it? Which of my action has stopped seeking happiness? Where in my interaction have I stopped seeking happiness? अगर मेरा कोई भी संबंध है, only because it is giving me happiness do I have the संबंध. Because I'm looking at that object to give me happiness. जबकि मुझे पता है, I am the source of my happiness. It's within me. It's independent of anything outside. The fact that I am not able to abide in those truthful statements shows that this antakaran अभी पकड़े हैं बहुत चीजों में. It's holding on to a lot of things which are false. Therefore, this spiritual activity in any form, Shastra is giving us many. Hinduism is a beautiful religion. I mean, it'll be a sad thing to see it. It's a great loss to humanity if this starts to become extinct. Hopefully not, but we should be ready for anything because none of us work actively to encourage religious ideas of educating people and allowing them to live those values. We just keep it either in our brain understanding or mechanically do it. But the whole prakarnam of Vedas, the entire knowledge of Vedas, is ultimately to make us live with awareness. Awareness means awareness of one's own self, because of which you stop looking for lollipops in life. That gati is diminished. So, pujanam, japa were two means. The third thing he says is chintanam. Chintanam normally is an expression for thinking, which are repetitive, contemplative thinking. But here Chintanam also has a meaning of repetitive mental activity. Because the idea is still in the realm of karma, the meaning comes as upasana. Dhyan. Repetitive mental. Japa was oral. A repetitive mental idea on Ishvara, engaging the mind only. And yesterday we saw Uttam Japaha is when you know the artha, the meaning of those words also. This Uttam Japaha can be a part of an elaborate process, Manasa Puja. It can also be a part of just Mano Japa, Manasa Japa. Upasana by word means normally puja. They seem to be equated. But in this context, it has got distinct difference. Puja refers to the physical part and mental engagement is upasana. And what does upasana really word as a word mean? Upa asan. Upasanam is the Sanskrit word. Asanam is sthan. Baithne ka sthan. Sthan. Upa means close to it. Sitting close to something. What are we sitting close to? I think I have. What are we sitting close to? If you remember in Tattvabodha, we saw this as an introduction. This is just a stone. Sitting close to it means making myself available. Available mentally. संबंध बन रहा है इसके साथ. और वो जो संबंध इसके साथ बन रहा है, that संबंध, here when I start the process of puja etc. in this stone, now it is physically it is puja, but mentally जो मैंने संबंध बनाया है, up to that point it is upasana now. So with reference to that, I have become an upasak. उपासना करने वाला. And किसके पास हम बैठे हैं? जिस चीज के पास हम बैठे हैं, that becomes an aalambanam. Aalambanam by very definition, by very the dictionary meaning also, it means something on which you are supporting yourself. Khan of your support. You're depending on. Aalambanam means dependency on. You're leaning on it, propping on it. That's called Aalambanam. Here this stone, at the moment, it's just a stone supposing. ये अब आलम्बन बना है for puja. Establishing your relation with it in a particular mode of mind. That act is an act of worship, puja, invoking Ishvara in that particular form. Here it is linga. Linga, so it invokes Shiva. Before continuing, yeah, you have a question, Priyanka?
Did we not do Aalambanam as imposing something? We impose Devi factor.
That superimposition is Aalambanam, on which it is imposed. That process is entirely Aalambanam. Superimposition is the correct thing. So on this stone, I am superimposing Shiva. So that is this. The stone becomes an Aalambanam of superimposition, deliberate superimposition. Right?
Yeah.
So when you see Aalambanam, puja, upasana, Aalambanam further can be Means this superimposition can further be done on, it can be a pratima or a pratik. Aalambanam fundamentally can be done on, दो किस्म के आलंबनम का माध्यम है, प्रतिमा और प्रतीक. Pratima means, by the word we know, any statue, idol, figure, image of a form. It must have a form. A form is a pratima. Ganesh ji here, Krishna ji there. Form hai ye. It's a pratima. On this pratima, I can have a deliberate superimposition done of what they represent. Pratika means it's a symbol. It's just a symbol. It doesn't have a form. This symbol can be picked up from any of the tanmatras. So sound from Akasha, sound. Remember the tanmatras and each of their having. Sound becomes a pratik of Ishvara. Sound doesn't have a form. Water becomes a pratik of Ishvara. How?
Ganga, because we impose goddess.
Correct. It's a river. In India, it's impossible to see our rivers without imposing divinity on them. And I have always wondered, go to Thames. Will I be able to impose any divinity there? It's strange how much of an idea has got percolated into our minds that the river Ganga word itself is infused with divinity, is infused with the idea of it being goddess. It's infused with the idea that this is not a laukik bhog ka vishay. While we are using it, it is not meant to be used with a vision of just river, pani, because river is an aadhar of life. वो आलंबन बन सकती है. It's a supporter. It supports life. Without river, there will be no life. So because it's a supporter, I can have a Aalambanam on it. That supporter aspect of it, nourisher aspect of it, is coming as Ishvara. Symbol of sound. What is that symbol of sound that has become very popular? Is Om. Om. Why is it a pratika? Because Om is that sound. Does it have a form? So many people say this form that you write is also a pratima after all. Pratima means it has to have a figure. This Om is just a symbol, symbolizing the entire range of sound that a human can extract, a basic to closing. इसके बीच में the entire varnamala is there. All sounds are between a and from guttural to labial. The entire range of your voice box and all that sound comes out as Om. Om now becomes a pratik of Ishvara, available for my Upasana, and it is a specific pratik that as I understand, I can, because it's a symbol, it has to take me to the point of its nirgunam. All these are also nirgunam. Krishna is not sagunam. Ganesha is not sagunam. Ishvara in his, Brahman in the sagunam form, in that image is Krishna. Brahman in its sagunam form, in this image is Ganesha. So, Upasana basically means mentally engaging oneself, picking up whatever is conducive to oneself, a pratik or a pratima. Pratik are always subtler than a pratima. I think I did. What is this? Taligrama. It's a fossilized stone. This fossilized stone is actually only seen near Nepal border. It's a river embedded. Probably some creatures were embedded. These are fossilized stones. But they are worshipped. Each of these have a specific kind of a form all over it. And they are worshipped as Vishnu. And each of their forms, alag-alag patthar, Dasha Avatara. The Dasha avatars of Vishnu are seen in these and worshipped. That means it's not very easily seen, I believe so, I don't know. But there have been people who have been adventurous enough, gone and tried to spend months to find one stone like that, which is naturally fossilized. It's very smooth on the outer. Inside is this, which will be Shank, Chakra, the symbols of Vishnu. So they have picked it up as a linga for Vishnu. Now the basic idea is only this much. The mind, whether it is puja, japa or upasana, these are three possible ways to engage our thoughts. If a mind is extremely distracted in the beginning, easier will be mechanical actions centered around Ishvara. Dhire, 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 it comes to highest is Manasa Vyapara. This Manasa Vyapara is what is advocated in these spiritual activities, practices. And the basic principle is that aropan that you are doing, utkrishta aropanam on nikrishta vastuni. Nikrishta means something that is an object. So here a stone is an object. There linga like this is an object. This is also stone, that is also stone. Over there you are imposing Shiva on it. Over here you are imposing Vishnu on it. On something which is a sensory aspect of your life, you impose something which represents the higher. Utkrishta vastuni. Utkrishta vastu, higher, highest. You impose it on a lower object. And then the act of worship, the japa, the manasa vyapara that you do centered around it, the phal of it is. In fact, if you see the japa ka verse also, janma vichchedaha, papa nashakaha, jakara janma vichchedaha, pakara papa nashakaha. The very japa itself will do these two things. Destroy the cycle of janma and destroy papa, which means the very act is the phal itself. Jap karam hai ki phal hai? Am I getting the point? Did I convey the point? Jap karam hai ki wo phal hai? Papa nashakaha janma vichchedaha. जप कर रहे हो, मगर जप उसे कहते हैं जो पाप का नाश करता है, जन्मांतर संसार का नाश करता है. That means japa is that action whose result is this, and there is no karma phal bhed as if over there. Karam ही उसका फल है, वो फल ही मिलता तब. You know what I mean. The idea is that there is no distance between them, as if. This itself is the result of it. जब उसी को कहोगे जो ये करता है, पाप का नाश करता है, जो करेगा, जो कर्म करेगा, जिससे पाप नाश होगा, that means this side of the spectrum is वो कर्म जो पाप का नाश करेगा, जो बांध रहा है वो जप है. So this becomes the Upasana, Chintanam. And then, if I just quickly see them. So, Kaya Vang Manaha, Karyam Uttamam, Pujanam, Japaha, Chintanam, Kramat. In that sense, each one is higher to the other. Kaika, Vachika, Manasa Karma, and Puja, Japa, and Dhyanam, Upasana. Therefore, all meditations, now a side note also, Dhyanam is also said to be meditation, and meditation are many types of meditations. When a meditation is devoid of Ishvara or of this Prakriya, it will have its benefits. It's like seeing Rajendraji as my Pita. There is going to be some connection, there's going to be some benefit of those meditations, but when it is associated with Ishvara, now this Dhyanam has got the power of Chitta Papa Nashanam, Chitta Shuddhi, Chitta Ekagrata. It destroys Ragadvesh and it brings one's extremely focused aspect of Chittam. And it's very focused for those who are diligent in these practices. Your Chit has tremendous, human mind has tremendous potential. It's got tremendous capacity. I mean, we have not even touched upon a small part of it. Forget brain. I'm talking about the human potential expressed through human equipment. Brain itself we do not know, but brain is not what we are talking about. We are talking about mind, and has in it tremendous capacity, which all these practices kept going, start to shape the mind, making them qualified for the knowledge. And therefore now here, through this he is only going to now further say, this thought process, jap bhi, manas vyapar of any sort, of any idol, any symbol, when it is done, ajyadharaya strotasa samam, sarala chintanam viralataf param. When it is the thought flow going towards its object, when it is constant, uninterrupted, effortless, अपने आप जब मन शांत होता है, हमारा मन कहाँ भागता है? If anybody has done this practice, before doing the practice, you must note how your mind runs when khali baithe ho. I think we did this in the workshop also. If you just sit quiet for a few minutes, what are the thoughts that start arising in your mind? Then go through the practice, any of these, for some time. And now when you sit quiet, where will your mind go? शुरू में ऑटोमेटिकली उसमें एक मोमेंटम आ जाता है, जो it says आज्य धारया स्रोतसा समम, like a constant flow, uninterrupted flow, like a river, here it says clarified butter, ghee. When that flow of thought is smoothly one after another, uninterrupted, means बीच में dissipation नहीं है. When you start doing meditation, हमें पता है ना कितना मुश्किल होता है. 2 minutes also sit, and your mind, in fact, when you before starting meditation, वो काफी शांत होता है. But when you have decided कि अब meditation करना है, now that's the exact time when the entire mind erupts. अब ये भी उस टाइम उसको सोच में आता है जो अदरवाइज पहले बिल्कुल भी नहीं था. That means now, though I have started, but my mind is interrupted by a lot of other thoughts. When the mind is uninterrupted by other thoughts, that is very superior. It's superior most compared to the thought flow which gets interrupted. So if I sit for 3 minutes, if 3 minutes I can sit uninterrupted in my puja or japa or Dhyanam. 3 minutes also, if I'm sitting uninterrupted, thought flow is constant, awareness is constant, it's not mechanical. I have the artha, the meaning, and I have the bhav. All this 3 minutes compared to this is the superior most. Lesser than that would be interrupted in between. So in those 3 minutes also, काफी भ्रमण करके आता है मन हमारा. It goes a lot of places and comes back even in 3 minutes. And by the time, if you keep a timer and do it, stopwatch, you suddenly realize in those 3 minutes, it was only 1, 2, 3, 5 times that your mind actually went to the real object of Ishvara. Rest of the time, it was everywhere else in the world, even 3 minutes. So here the whole, what is getting conveyed is how the mind is shaping up to its ekagrata. Then he says, Upasana mein aur bhi bhed hai. What is the difference? Which is higher and which is lower? Bheda bhavanat sohamityasav. Bhavana bheda pavani mata. When any worship is done with an idea that this Ishvara is separate from me, with a bheda bhavana, they are separate. When it is done as that, it is lower than soham iti asau, that I am, non-dual. Krishna and I are different, and I worship Krishna because he is Ishvara, okay. He is Brahman, okay. I am a servant. I am a upasak. I am a limited entity. I am a limited being. I can only worship. I can only adore. And with that, I wait for Bhagwan to give me his blessing. I wait for Bhagwan to give me anugraha. I ask for anugraha. I seek anugraha. I seek blessing. Hey Bhagwan, bless me. Hey Bhagwan, bless me. Nothing wrong. But this is lower than an upasana done with the knowledge and the understanding that this Krishna is this here. I worship there, but I know that there is no distinction. This whole expression of life is also Krishna. I am not an entity at all. ये जो बोलने की शक्ति है, जो सुनने की शक्ति है, क्रिया की शक्ति है, जो ये लाइफ प्रिंसिपल है, ये जो यहाँ फंक्शन कर रहा है, वो भी क्या है at the end of it? Can I be separated from the life principle? Can an individual be separate from the life principle? Am I making sense? Can actually one be separated away from the very life principle? So when I worship Krishna there as a separate entity and call myself as a nobody, and I wait for, I'm thinking I'm a very humble and a bhakta, very good, fine. It's not negated, it's not looked down upon because it's better than not being a bhakta at all. But if you're waiting for Bhagwan to give you blessing, you ask for blessing, okay, fine. But what is superior to that? Growing oneself to this knowledge that this expression is in anything and everything. Here also it is the same. That worship that I do there in an external form, when I start seeing it expressing here, I'm freed of all external limitations now. In one of the Upanishads, the example will be Angushta Matra. This, as much as your thumb is in your palm, that size, thumb in your palm, this size, Angushta Matra, is the Narayan who's in the cave heart. So you visualize your heart, you visualize the space in the heart, and your Narayan is sitting there. Angushta Matram, this size. From here he is invigorating the whole body. He is the life principle expressing here. Now the one who's awakened to this understanding and has a bhav for this, is he going to sit only in front of one idol and say, Bhagwan yahi hai? Can you limit that puja? Can you limit that at all over there? How can it almost feel as if, oh my God, I've caged Bhagwan? Why? Just as I cage birds, I cage Bhagwan in one idol. It's a full expression anywhere and everywhere in anything and everything. It's a connection with anything and everything. Bheda bhavanat, with that difference when I do my puja, it is little less than when I do that with soham. Saha aham, that I am. Pavani mata, it is a greater purifier. And incidentally, the soham is also when we said Japa, there is a particular kind of a Japa which is popular in the world, and a lot of yogic schools present it. It's more in the yoga school of idea, and useful also, no doubt about it. One of the ways of meditation also, it can be included. There is a verse. I did type it, but I don't remember where I got it now. There is a verse which says, oh, what did I do last time? Ah, here it is. I think I will just read it because I'm not able to share it at this point. Okay, there is a verse that says, Sarvatra praninam dehe japo bhavati sarvada hamsaha sohamiti gyatva sarva bandaihi pramuchyate. And this is called Soham Japaha. It says Dehe, in all the bodies, of Praninam, of all pranis. Sarvatra, everywhere. So Dehe Sarvatra Praninam, in the bodies of all beings, Hamsaha Japaha Bhavati. There is a particular Japa called Hamsa Japa, which is going on Sarvada, all the time. And what is this Hamsa Japa? They say in your very breathing process, when one is breathing in, there is a sound which is inherent, and the sound is Sa. So inhalation has a sound Sa, and exhalation has a sound Ha. When you are inhaling, it is Sa. Exhaling, it is Ha. Now there are certain techniques in this kind of a japa, which means the meditator, the one who's now meditating on Hamsaha Japa, is inhaling, is being aware of the sound of inhalation and exhalation. So when you are inhaling, you are visualizing Sa, Sakar, and when exhalation is there, it is Hakar. This is Hamsa Japa. They say Hamsa Japa is going on automatically for all pranis. It's automatic. The sound is inherent, and every prani who wants to tune in can meditate on this because it's an available sound. You know, like your heartbeat is an available sound. Those who are very sensitive can hear the sound. You know, your stomach gives sounds. So the sound of your breathing, as long as you're breathing, throughout your life, this Hamsa Japa is going on. And most of us are too involved in our thoughts, so we don't pay attention to it. But according to pranayama or according to yogas, this is one of the japas you can utilize for your meditation. This hamsa japa, when you reverse it. So here it has started with hamsa, which means exhalation, the sound is louder to you, and it is actually there. So when you're breathing, you will say, that sound is louder. You can hear a loud sound. So hum is a louder sound than sa. So hum, when you reverse it, saha aham means that sound of sa followed by the sound of ha, and then there is a pause. That little pause over there. This is a japa. Through this soham japa, this gyatva, when you know soham, sarva bandhaihi pramuchyate, you are freed of all bandhan. So, what is the whole idea that is being presented here? It says that through karma, in the form of these three activities, puja, physical, where very little of mind or your speech is engaged. Speech, japa, where very little of your body is engaged, more of your mind also involves. And then manasa, where hardly any activity with the mind is engaged, but dhyanam is important. So he says, So he says, Soham ityasau bheda bhavanat sah aham iti asau. When there is a bheda there, bhed bhavana, then it will be lower than, more pavani will be abheda upasana. Abheda means soham upasana. So when I'm worshipping over there, I know that is me. And that soham can start with japa as a part of the upasana, or on any form when I'm doing as a pratima, when I'm doing it in the pratima, then that is this here. Veda bhavanat sohamityaso bhavana abhida pavani mata. This I think we'll continue again a little bit more. But now I think the topic is predominantly covered. If you go through the thought flow once again, starts with saying karmas do not give liberation. Karma in fact binds us, is a way of bondage, but karma is a tool, effective and very helpful if it can be converted. If karma can be used by converting it into making it purified, and to purify the karma means removing one's ragadvesh, ahankar, etc., karta bhav from the karma. To do that, you have to introduce another element, which is Ishvara. And Ishvara can be included in these three activities. Each one is superior to another. Once you have this basic guide map outline here, whatever one is comfortable with, to one's understanding, that becomes one's anchor, around which the unfoldment starts. So there is a whole variety over there according to each one. There was a question someone had, how much japa should one be doing? Or Shastra, like I said, from a standpoint of karma, if one wants to do it for sakamata, if one wants something specific, then there are more rules. But when one is doing it nishkam, when one is doing it for chitta shuddhi, if one doesn't want anything much from it, automatically the rules don't bind. So if one wants something specific, then there'll have to be how many numbers of japas you have to do. But if one doesn't want anything, then even one japa has brought you closer to Ishvara, your own Swarupa. So generally speaking, that if 108 is acceptable, but 11 is acceptable, 5 is acceptable, 3 is acceptable. In Vedanta, when the idea is to reach knowledge and not hang on just to karma, over there we say even one matra is allowed. Important point is not how much. Important point is how. How did one do it? Not how much did one do. So how we did it, and that is absolutely the truth. Because as I said, how many times you may have they offered flower to Ganga, even once if you did it, he only received it. But how did I do it was important. So 1,000 times I did it and I threw the flower saying, मैं तो अपनी काम कर रही हूँ, मैं तो अपना पूजा कर रही हूँ. So I just go offer it because, Aarti time, everybody is doing Aarti taliyan, so I'm also doing Aarti, and I'm also doing all this, and Aarti time finished and my mind is already running to dinner and my mind is already engaged with all those thoughts, and then somebody just nudged me and I just, move away, I just did all that, but then I'm also doing, now this is also one way of doing, not wrong, but I just did one silent by myself, there was nobody there. And I just went and offered one petal. I didn't even offer a petal. I mentally offered the petal. I didn't even go to Ganga. I just mentally visualized and offered a petal. Who received it? So in Vedanta, why Vedanta is so relieving to everybody and karma is so difficult to everybody? Because in karma, if you are doing it with karta, there are a lot of rules and injunctions. But here the topic is Vedanta. You are already Poonam. What rule will you follow? So here, as one comes closer to Vedantic knowledge, you are freed of it. But the chitta still got some purification left to be done. While Shravanam of Vedanta gives a lot of purification, but habitual patterns, habitual thinking, habitual ideas, वो सब अभी जकड़ के रखता है. Perception doesn't come straight. Aham Brahmasmi doesn't come out. So even when the prakarnam of Atma Gyan is going on, at the end of it, my mind goes back to its own old, dog's tail ke jaise goes back, coils back to its own nature and vyavhar. Then one knows, Shastra says, Shastra is kind to tell us that karma and upasana are your aids. Use them so that you can grow into knowledge. And that knowledge you have to hold, abide. Karma you cannot abide forever. Upasana you cannot abide forever. Knowledge is nityasthan. You abide in it forever. And that's it becomes moksha sadhana. So we'll end the class here. आप करेंगे खत्म?
Yes, I'll do it. शुरू करूं अभी? ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथ्वी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Thank you very much. And
Deepti ji, namaskar. Thanks. That was